Hi guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Nick Egan Times. We have an awesome guest on this episode. We have Brett Triantafilou, who is a CBRE Resourcing Manager, which is Global Real Estate Management, proud Greek man, proud Greek family man, and an awesome all-around guy. Brett, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nick. I'm excited to be here. I've heard a few of the other podcasts. Now you've interviewed a couple family members already. Hopefully, I can bring some fun stuff to talk about, something interesting and new. So, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, and yeah, we always have a good time. So, how's it all
Yeah.
going over there anyway, just generally?
Things are going pretty well. COVID aside, still keeping myself pretty active doing stuff. Um, I'm trying not to let the pandemic shut everything down for me. So I'm using the time, and I used a little bit last year to hustle on the side a little bit. I rehabbed an entire house here, and then Devin and I moved at the end of last year into it. So from the ground up, we kind of gutted it and moved in, and that's kind of was on the side. And then I work, as you mentioned, a corporate job during the day. So kind of kept me busy the last year. And once we wrapped up my house, there's a few other real estate projects my brother and I do on the side, which we kind of love to do. Move our hands and get off from, out from behind the old laptop and get out in the field, swing some hammers, do some fun stuff, build things with our hands. So that's all kept me pretty active and made last year a little more enjoyable. I wasn't able to go to the pubs and things. So that wasn't a little bit of a letdown. I didn't do as much traveling really, but kept busy in other ways. So I tried to use it as a time to double down on some side hustles and things like that.
Yeah, I know you're doing amazing with that too. So, uh, speaking of that, talk quickly and briefly about flipping houses and what that looks like. So, how many have you done, or what does the future look like for that?
Yeah, so I've kind of been around real estate growing up. So my dad had rental properties. My Uncle George, he's a builder and has rental properties. Our good friend, almost like a brother to my brother and I, Kyle, he's a rehabber and home builder. So I've seen it from close family and friends, and my brother and I were kind of sitting there. We've worked the corporate life, him and I both. I'm 28 years old, he's 30, and we've been in it since we got out of our universities with degrees. So we've been in it 5 to 8 years, and we kind of just want more for ourselves. We don't want to be settled in with the typical corporate life and always answering to someone else. And we kind of saw real estate as a good escape to that. So when we leave our corporate jobs at night, we try to have some projects on the side to work on. So currently we haven't done a ton of numbers. We've kind of been eyeing the market and learning and used the last few years to save up a lot of money. So we don't have a ton of deals under our belts. This year was a busy one for us. We had three that we've worked on. Prior to that, we both rehabbed pretty much an extensive full gut on his home in my home. So, and then we've had a rental property for about 4 years. So that was, three houses in the past 3 or 4 years. And then this year as I mentioned, we had three deals. So we flipped one. Um, we got a duplex that we're currently rehabbing, and then again we did my house. So probably all in all about six properties, and looking to kind of scale up from there. But as I mentioned, it's a good thing to do. I don't want to be in corporate America forever. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I feel like I'm good at it. I'm good at playing the game a little bit here and there, and I can present well and all these things. But that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I don't think I'm not speaking for my brother, but I don't know that he necessarily cares to either. So maybe, hopefully, no one from work hears this, hears the podcast. But
That's cool. That's pretty funny.
but yeah,
Yeah, I get
yeah.
it. I get it.
So that's kind of what we're hoping to do. And we're hoping to build something up a little more substantial on the side. And even when we haven't had over the last few years, when we haven't had a bunch of projects on our hands, we used it as a time to go kind of conservative with our money. We've always kind of been a little conservative spending spending wise. So we saved up a lot of money in the last few years, and that's been able to equip us to buy some properties with cash here in the States. And we just invest locally in the Midwest. So a lot of the times we'll be, like I said, shutting our laptops down, and then going and picking the hammer and tool belt up, managing contractors, meeting people on site. It keeps you busy. You're always calling someone or doing something, and um, we both enjoy it because you get to see something develop that you kind of had a vision on, and you get to do it sometimes with your own hands. Although we try not to do everything, we're trying to get more scaled and sub some of it out. So that's kind of what we do, what we've been doing. We're looking to possibly again buy something a little bit bigger, maybe some apartment complexes down the road. Maybe look into building new homes. I don't know exactly what the future holds for us, but like I said, we just, I know we talked about too is, I've seen a little bit of both sides of working the corporate path, and then working the entrepreneurial route. So you had Alexia on the podcast and Alex. Both of them have gone a little more entrepreneurial. Definitely Alexia and Alex being the political game. He's probably a little more, a little less corporate, a little more entrepreneurial. My mom worked 25 to 30 years in corporate America. My dad was an entrepreneur. So a lot of the Greek side, I saw the entrepreneur side, and they made good income. They kind of worked and did things that they wanted at their own direction, at their own leisure at times. They definitely put the hours in and worked hard, but if they wanted, once they set that life and that business up for themselves, they could step back. Whereas I saw my mom definitely in like a high stress role, constantly answering to people that she didn't really maybe agree with, or maybe she was mistreated, and you felt like you had to suck it up and go through and play that corporate game. And that just wasn't something that I want to do for the rest of my life. So I've seen both avenues, and I'm choosing the entrepreneurial one for the long term, although I'm kind of in the middle now.
Well, that's really good. That's great insights. Yeah. Tell me about your Greek family.
Yeah, so as others have heard on the podcast, we are about 20 something of us. I don't even know the exact number. So they've probably summed up a lot of the stories and things. My favorite one is I think the American holiday, Thanksgiving, or around Christmas time a few years back. We were in all our glory, about 20 of us, going to a local restaurant after church. And we go in, and as we're in the midst of our normal discussion, which is about 10 times louder than in the other American family, uh, I look over and see someone on their phone, and they have like their one finger plugged in their ear and the phone up to the other ear. And I see them leaning down, like trying to hear what was going on. We were just being loud, having a good time. And that's kind of how things are with us. We all super close. We're texting in a big group chat constantly. We've got my 80-year-old Yaya, my grandmother. She just joined Snapchat, so we're getting Snapchats from her, which still blows my mind. And everyone in between. So we've got the cousins. We're all in our teens to our 20s. To now my brother being 30. We've got our aunts and uncles. We all get together pretty frequently, keep in close contact with everyone. So it's a tight knit group, and we're always hanging out, doing things together. And part of the reason, probably too, you've heard, a lot of us have stayed in the area, not always traveling out. My girlfriend Devin, who you've met, she always says the reason why. So I had a corporate job that was going to move me a few states north to Michigan from where I'm at in Ohio, and I didn't do it. She always says I could never leave my big Greek family. So part of that's some truth. So yeah, we're just a tight knit group, and that's how we operate, and it makes for good times.
Sure. You went to Greece on that family vacation 2 years ago, I believe. If it was, yeah, it was about 2 years ago. How was it going there, and was there any favorite places that you could recommend listeners to go to that you preferred or liked?
Yeah, I mean that was the trip for me. That was my second time. I went once, just me and my dad back when I was about 10 years prior, so I was maybe 17 or 18 at the time, and definitely got to see some more of the island. So, in my opinion, Athens is still a great city to see, and that's where a lot of folks fly into. We went, as I think Alex and Alexia mentioned as well, Paros and Milos and Santorini. All three islands were gorgeous. The one thing I'll say was the cream of the crop. The best thing we did was we chartered like our own. I don't want to say, I don't know if it was, if you call it like a yacht or something, whatever, but it was like a big catamaran boat. They served up food. We went. They cooked like a whole big Greek spread, amazing food, um, like 4 or 5 course meal on the water. Water is beautiful, super blue. You know, they give you diving masks. You jump off and swim through caves and stuff like that. Gorgeous scenery at all times. It's like a background on your phone. So, yeah, I think Greece, when I went 10 years prior, wasn't as on the map. As it was, you know, in today's day and age, you see a lot of celebrities and things in the news that are going there. So the number one thing though that we did is that we definitely did go on that charter that own private kind of yacht catamaran and go around the islands and check out all the sites and did some swimming, and that was by far my favorite part of the trip. And besides, you know, obviously Alexia got engaged, as she mentioned. That was beautiful winery overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. But pretty much anywhere you go out there, it's hard to miss, especially if you got to stop. I feel like at one of the big islands. I went to Mykonos 10 years ago. I know that's a big one, and Santorini's another big one. So I would definitely recommend going to maybe one of the bigger islands. It's going to be a little more touristy than the others. There's, I don't know how many islands are in the Greek Isles, but I would definitely recommend going to some of the bigger ones to see some of the main sites, and then, you know, maybe have some more nightlife, and then also go to a few of the other maybe smaller ones. I thought Paros and Milos were both really fun to go to as well. A little more low key, and some sightseeing and a little less touristy. So I thought it was kind of a cool mixture of all those. But if you go to Greece, definitely hit the islands, hit one of the big ones, and I'd say throw in definitely a smaller one just to see a little bit of a different experience.
Sure. You love traveling, fitness, boating, bike riding, rebuilding bikes, and your Harley Davidson. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a lover of all things outdoors. So our family, we love going boating. I try to do wakeboarding and stuff like that. Not the best at it, I'm not gonna lie to you, Nick. I try, but I just like to do pretty much anything outdoors. So I've always had a passion for things with two wheels. We grew up with family and friends riding quads, and then later moved to dirt bikes and ride motocross tracks. So there's actually a big Australian, somewhat big Australian presence in supercross and motocross. So I know there's a bit of a scene over there in Australia, but always grew up on those kind of motor vehicles too. And then when I was riding motocross, I broke my shoulder. Everyone seems to break bones doing it. Uh, and I was like, I'm gonna give up riding, hitting jumps and going fast. I'm gonna slow down and get a Harley Davidson. And a couple of my buddies got them too. So now we all ride together and work on them and build them up. And then I got the itch again to get back on a dirt bike, so I bought one of those too and went back to that. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into the Harley Davidson, and now I'm kind of in both worlds. And I've gotten, you know, the injuries in the past. I've had a few injuries, not only with motocross and other stuff. Um, and every time I've gone and done like physical therapy or anything, you know, you always see these people that like lose range of motion, or they lose strength, or they're imbalanced or something like that. And I just never wanted that for myself. I always wanted to be physically fit. I didn't want to be the guy that was like 50 who couldn't put his hand over his head. So whenever there was an injury for me, some of those happened at a younger age. I really wanted to overcome those, and not just overcome them, but come out stronger. So, I did my physical therapy, and then that's kind of what got me into the fitness side is overcoming some of those injuries. And I always grew up, I was a little bit slender, so I was, wanting to put on some muscle mass. So I kind of got into weightlifting. I'm not the biggest guy out there, but I do enjoy throwing some weights around and being in shape. And when you take your shirt off at the beach for the Sheilas, you got to be looking good, right?
You know all about that, Brett. Where is your favorite place to go in the USA for vacations and taking your shirt off at the beach?
um, if you're looking, the nightlife, it was hard to beat in Las Vegas. So, I mean, for something like that, that was a fun experience. I went there actually, like when I graduated college, I think I went there and then I went there a few more times. It was like 3 years in a row for me, which kind of was unplanned. But that was a really good time. And it's kind of the cliche one to say, but the typical Vegas, I feel like your best Vegas experience is, you wake up and you go to a pool party in the afternoon. You hang out, have some drinks at the pool party, then you go out to a nice dinner, and then you go to the nightlife afterwards. So we went to a place called Omnia. It's in a hotel in Vegas. I can't remember which exact one, but we went there and saw Calvin Harris perform live, and that was one of the most fun experience concerts I've ever been to. They got the strobe lights coming in. They got bottle service, women falling from the ceiling, like bringing bottles out to people. We snuck into the like bottom part of the dance floor and got front row. And when everyone's up there dancing and they're spraying like cold smoke, like air into the crowd, cools you down a little bit, gives you a little burst of energy for the next song. So that was one of the coolest experiences I had in Vegas, and I love that. But then also, going to Florida is a great place for us to vacation, especially we're positioned for those in Australia and that are listening. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is like the Midwest. It's kind of like a little bit east of the center of the U.S., not completely on the coast, so it's a little bit easier for me to go to Florida. It's only a few hours flight down there rather than going to the West Coast, which is California and some of those areas. So we vacation a lot in Florida as well. The beaches are pretty beautiful there. And you can get a little bit of everything. You can get the family area as well as some of the nightlife in Miami and other areas like that. I mean, I'm not the most experienced traveler of all time, but I've gone to a few places. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I always see your snaps and your photos. Always looks like you're having a good time down there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I love to do outdoor things. So anytime I can get to the warm weather and do something fun outdoors, I eat it up. So we do fishing and kayaking, stuff like that, and then enjoy a few drinks in the night.
Sure. You believe in entrepreneurship, which you mentioned earlier, as opposed to salary life in corporate America, which you obviously witness as a contrast to both sides of your parents. Generally speaking, what are your thoughts of entrepreneurship in a context where you see that in the future for yourself specifically? Is it going to be just flipping houses or is it going to be something else as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like definitely is going to be something in real estate, but I mean, I'm not tied to real estate. I feel like I have a passion for business and I love studying business. I follow a lot of big names online and Gary V and Grant Cardone and in the real estate market and a lot of other small time people as well. And one thing I love to hear is like success stories. I love to see how other people's minds work. I love when someone's passionate about something they developed or created and they just they get that drive and they're just relentless until something's achieved and their products in the hands of thousands of people. So I've always been interested in that way. I feel like I have a lot of passion and a lot of energy. If I found a way to apply it in something other than real estate, I would be all over it. I always joke like I need to just become one of these YouTube people and just start selling T-shirts like online, like like everyone else
Yeah.
does, new merch drop or whatever. But part of me would a little bit feel like a sellout doing that. So no offense if you got other guests coming on that are doing that. But I want to do something that brings a little bit of value to the world. I don't want to just get up there and I don't know what some of the influencers of today really bring to people. Some of them do, but some of them don't bring any knowledge. So I wouldn't want to be someone that's like just up there flashy, phony, gimmicky. I'd like to actually bring some value and have something that I'm passionate about, one of my interests that I've kind of talked to you about today. And if a product or something develops out of that, I would be on 100% on board. But I have a feeling my best and most knowledgeable area at the current time is probably real estate. So I have a feeling if that's not going to be my final avenue, I think I'll always have some part of it. Because with real estate, I think it's a great avenue for investing your money. Personally, from what I've seen, you can get 20% return on your money if you play it right. And some of the deals my brother and I have evaluated, you can look at that and compare it to the stock market at 6%. You're crushing it. Your money's compounding a lot faster. You can double your money a lot quicker than at a 6% rate. So, I think it's a great avenue for investing. And the only thing that I'm not 100% sold on real estate is for generating, large amounts of cash. So, if you want something, if you have $50,000 and you want to go invest in real estate versus investing and starting up a business, you may get, a 6 to 20% return. But if you start up your own business, in a few years you could be making a couple $100,000 a year, which you get a lot more steady, I'd say, income from real estate. It's predictable and it's there, but it doesn't. You need bigger amount of cash in order to make like a big return, I guess I would say. I mean, you can get the percentage, but when it comes down to the dollars, you're going to have better outcome if you're starting a business and you got something with a lot more cash flow coming in. So that's at least a retirement strategy for me at the worst.
Sure. Tell me about your partner Devon and the future plans for you both.
Yeah. So Devon, I think I infected her, and maybe my family did too, with the entrepreneurial spirit. She was a corporate event planner. And actually, we both met at a job. We both worked at Toyota in the manufacturing side. I thought we were being sneaky, and no one knew about us dating. But apparently, management already found out and had a little bit of an awkward encounter with them, saying, kind of confronting me on our relationship and making me disclose it. But we met when we both started at Toyota. And she was a corporate event planner, and later she ended up moving. Like I said, she made the move to Michigan, a few states north of us. I didn't care for the colder weather, and I couldn't leave the Greek family, so that's why I didn't. But I ended up traveling back and forth, and we've been dating for about 5 years now. And she recently, in the last year, started her own business. She opened a franchise for a company called Neat Method, where she's going and organizing clients' homes. So, a lot of those like pretty pictures you'll see on Instagram where someone's pantry is like neatly labeled and everything's in the right spot and all the colors are aligned. That's kind of what she does for clients. So she started that up about a year ago, and she's been enjoying that as well. It's definitely a lot of work and a lot of stress, but I think she'll be good if it's in that path or another path going forward. She's definitely learning a lot, and like I said, I think I may have infected her with the entrepreneurial spirit, because I don't know if she can go back to corporate ever again now either. So
Yeah, it's not a bad thing though, right? It's
yeah,
how it
yeah,
works.
no.
So
I
it's good.
mean, I'm probably hating all over corporate America. It's not bad at times. I feel like I should say it. It's helping me to save up money and invest in real estate and pursue other things. So it's
Yeah.
not all bad. It's a steady income for the most part, and they can pay well if you start moving up the chain. So
What is your day to day look like at CBRE as a resourcing manager?
yeah. So I'm a global sourcing manager for CBRE, and I know we're in Australia as well. Or really, it's the largest commercial real estate company globally. And my day to day is I'm in sourcing. I'm in supply chain. I basically hire and select suppliers for managing um, facilities throughout really globally now in my role. So if someone has a need for such, let's just say HVAC or generators, or you need a janitorial company, um, I would potentially run a project to say, okay, we're spending X amount of money in this region. Let's see who we can hire and bring in to be more competitive, maybe bring in a better service offering. And then I'm kind of making an award for business on who I deem as the best. So that's my role. I didn't necessarily plan to go this path, but I did. When I was in my university, I studied marketing and finance, and as I mentioned, I started at Toyota doing some marketing, and I ended up kind of wanting to see what Toyota's world-class production system was about and what it was like and what I could learn from it. So then I moved into purchasing, and that's kind of how I got my foot in the door with purchasing and sourcing. And then it was an easy transition when I was looking for another job outside of Toyota. There was a sourcing position open, and I jumped on it because I didn't want to make that cold trek north to Michigan. So
Sure. Tell me tell me actually your opinion on how COVID is over there currently and your thoughts on it.
um, you know, I think it's definitely so. I guess my own thoughts, it's definitely in the last month I've opened my eyes a little bit more to how serious it was. When you hear, there's like a 99.99% survival rate for those healthy and, under certain age groups. I started questioning, all the attention that was going towards it, but it is definitely something that, I've seen personally some people suffer from it and go downhill. But I don't know. I struggle every day. I'm always open to being told I'm wrong and seeing other people's side of things. So I try to keep an open mind in that way, and I'm not afraid to be wrong. And if I am, and someone presents the case and the facts, and I feel like I'm pretty open minded to change my opinion. And I think I've started realizing it's a little more serious, but at the same time, it is a balancing act between keeping people mentally safe. You see the numbers for substance abuse and things like that. And personally, I've been quarantining here recently this year. I was quarantining for a few weeks, and I started going mad just sitting in the house. So that I'm an outdoors guy. I got to do something. I'm always working on rental property or something here and there. So just sitting around isn't good for me. Um, so there's some kind of balancing act that needs to be done a little bit between closing things and keeping people safe. But I'm not a politician by any means, and I don't know that I ever care to be. But that's why I respect Uncle Alex. But I think there's definitely some kind of balancing act. I know one of the things that you mentioned in Australia, and I think there's a little more restriction. You mentioned wasn't there a QR codes or something you have to scan?
Yeah, so when we go into restaurants, bars, or generally
Mm.
anywhere basically now, you need to scan a QR code so that they can trace if there's an infection or there's an outbreak, they can trace it back. It's a lot easier to see the people that were there so they can trace it back.
Yeah. See, now here in the U.S., those are scary words probably to some of us because we don't like government tracking and tracing us. And I'm a little bit the same way. I wasn't a big conspiracy theory guy or anything like that until this year. Kind of now I'm like, I'll probably believe just about anything you tell me. So I don't like the government tracking and doing all that kind of stuff. I get that it can keep you safe and maybe it's helping, but some of this government intervention, closing restaurants and things. I've seen some people I know who have like family restaurants that have suffered, and it's kind of crazy to me that you could have a business, pour your life into it. Again, this is coming from someone with an entrepreneurial mind, but you put your heart and soul into a restaurant or a business, or maybe you opened a bar last year, and now no fault of your own, but you're shut down forever because you can never financially recover from being closed for a year. So that kind of blows my mind a little bit. I do respect COVID in that it's deadly, but those are some of my thoughts, and I don't know if the U.S. has handled it the best. I go back and forth. I don't have the right answer for everything, but they've definitely shut down a lot of things. That we've got curfews here now, like you can only go out to the bars and restaurants till 10. And there's some other orders in place. I think maybe the mask wearing is good if it's doing stuff. I've heard other people argue, maybe it's not because our transmission rates haven't really changed. So I don't know what the right answer is. If I don't want to be one of those guys that's like infecting other people and not wearing a mask. So I do my part in that way, but I don't know what the right answer is, but those are some of my thoughts. I just want to make sure that they're, we're not ruining people's lives over something that, statistically isn't going to affect them, like the younger generation. But we're also, not spreading things like wildfire and causing a mass disruption and a lot of deaths and long-term illness. Because I'm all about health. So,
sure. Would you get the vaccine?
I'm open to it. I don't know the answer yet. I'll probably wait and see what the results are from others that get it. And to be honest, I haven't done a bunch of research on it myself. In the past, I've never been like an anti-vaccine person. I've pretty much gotten every vaccine I've needed growing up. My parents always did as well. They brought me to get all my normal checkups. But on this one, it does, I guess, make you scratch your head a little bit. And maybe I'm reading too much on the internet. Like I said, I don't trust anything. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of weird talks about, if you're not vaccinated, you can't go and do this, or you can't get, you can't walk into this store. There's all kinds of crazy talk on the internet. Like if you weren't vaccinated, maybe you couldn't go into the store and get your groceries or, something like that. That's scary to me. Makes me wonder what's going on with it. But in terms of the vaccine, I'll probably wait and just see what others' reactions are. I'm not at high risk. I may have already had it and they have antibodies. I'm not 100% certain on that yet. But I'm kind of just tired of I've gotten tested like 3 times negative. I've gotten the antibody test right after I thought I had it. So I don't know if it was going to show or not. I was negative. I'm like, I'm doing all this and, I'm really have minor symptoms for myself. For me, if I did have it, it was kind of like a 2-day minor cold. So it's, in my opinion, going and taking the vaccine for something that's a 2-day minor cold. I don't know that I would be the first to jump in line to do it. But if it seems to go off with success and others that I know personally and, gets a little more research behind it, I'd be open to getting it.
Sure. And where do you see, pardon me, where do you see generally the USA generally positioned for the future, as your personal opinion?
For the future, what I'd like to see, I guess, is what I'd say is, I think some people are getting their eyes opened again as more of this, restrictions have happened in the last year, and just politically, some of the stuff going on, and you hear, governors and others talking about one thing but doing another in their private life. So it really kind of casts a lot of doubt onto some of the people that are making these decisions and ruling. So I'd hope to see my generation step it up a bit and and maybe actually bring some change. Everyone complains about politics, but it's been the same thing for years. Instead of complaining about it, maybe my generation can be the one to change things around and get rid of some of the the lobbyists and like on the bill here in the U.S. I don't know. I don't study politics a lot, but there was just word that it was like a $900 billion bill or million. Can't remember the number, but out of that 900, only like a third of it went to the American people. 2/3 of it went to like foreign interests, like gender studies in Iraq or something. Got like 20 million. I'm probably butchering the numbers, but it was something along those lines, and that really makes you scratch your head and go like, okay, so they're giving the Americans $600 check, but then we're paying all this money to all these foreign interests while people are suffering here. So some of that I like to see change. It just seems like that's kind of how politics were, and that's how they are, and it seems like it's accepted, but I hope that it's not. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'd like to see it. Again, but I also hope to have my own business and be underground and off the political radar. I'm not campaigning for office or anything like that. I want to run my business in quiet and not have anyone protesting me or anything. I just want to run my things and stay out of it, and then I can judge from the sidelines.
Sure. Brett, thank you for your time today. I do appreciate coming on. It's been great. Really great insights from you.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. And before I go, I feel like I got to tell your listeners my favorite Nick Egan story if I got a minute.
Yeah, go.
So I know you've been interviewing everyone, and we haven't heard as much about you yet. So my favorite story was when you came a few years ago, and this is the one I tell everyone. You and I and some of the other family members were downtown Cincinnati having a few drinks in an area where we're getting in the cans, as you would say, right?
Getting on the cans, yes.
Getting on the cans. All right. We're getting on the cans, and this is an area that's in the last few years it was the highest crime-ridden area in the city, and one of the highest in the state. But they started revitalizing it, putting a lot of money into the old buildings there and new bar scene and everything. But there's still a mixture. It hadn't, I don't know if you guys use the word gentrified. It hadn't been fully gentrified or turned over into like a nice area. And you and I were walking from one bar to the other, and we saw some guys hanging out that they were smoking and some smoking the weed over here in the U.S. And you and I were like, and you kind of like looked over and you're like, oh, those are real American gangsters. And you said it with your Australian accent. And I'm sure these guys didn't know what the hell to think. But I just started cracking up laughing and thought I might get shot that night, but luckily I didn't. And
Actually,
that's the story I tell everyone.
Actually, quickly too, tell listeners about the story about when you apparently got shot at or something when you were younger.
Oh yeah. So well, I didn't get it shot that night when I was with you, Nick, thankfully. But
Lucky there, lucky
uh,
there.
yeah, I did. Okay, so one time back in college, my buddy and I, my best friend, and another friend. There was three of us. We were out at a university party that night, and we didn't live on campus, so we were getting a ride home that night. My one friend was driving, and we had to go a little bit through a rough. Now everyone's gonna think Cincinnati is like some terrible area, but we had to go through the area of town to get to our houses. That wasn't the best. And on the way home, my friend's in the driver's seat, my best friend, another friend is in the passenger seat, and I'm in the back. There were some guys there that we kind of pulled up to the stoplight and looked at them. They were driving a little funny, and I was on the cans that night, and
Having a good time.
yeah, having a good time. And they start looking at us crazy, and we didn't really really think much of it. Well, then they start riding real close to my friend's rear of his vehicle, and start, getting really close. Like we thought they were going to run into the back of us, and some words were exchanged. And next thing you know, they kind of pull up next to us, and the window's shattered, and I'm in the back seat, and I didn't really know what had happened at the time. We thought they threw something. Our minds, never get shot. That's not even a thought that crosses your mind. But the window got shattered, and we thought they had like some kind of slingshot or something. We didn't. I don't know. When I was like 19 at the time, I didn't think that bad of the world, I guess, at that point. So they run a red light afterwards. Turns out they had fired like 2 or 3 shots into the back of the car. One went through the door and split in half and hit me just above my knee. So thankfully it was a smaller caliber rifle. Didn't do a ton of damage, but it did tear a tendon above my knee. But after they shot at us, I don't know, one potentially may have gone through the back window, which is a scary thought to think about if it missed my head. I try not to think about that, though. After they
Yeah.
shot at him, my buddy that ran the light and chased after him because he was like, well, they knocked out my window. And a cop was behind us the whole time and didn't see the shots fired. That was kind of wild to us. And he said, well, why'd you guys run the red light? And we started telling him. And as we're sitting there, he goes back to his car. I look around and I see a blood spot on my knee, and my jeans are kind of ripped. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then I look and I realize, like, oh shit, I had got shot. I didn't even realize it. So I told my friend. He didn't believe me. And he looks back and goes, oh wow, you aren't lying. So they carted me off to the hospital, and they ended up finding both the guys that were driving and shooting, and they both did a jail sentence. So crazy story. That's my pub story, my drinking story, my most interesting fact.
Wow, that's crazy. That doesn't happen often here. So yeah,
Yeah, no, not with the gun laws. No guns in Australia. You don't get that probably as much.
no, not like that. Not at a party, but maybe in other certain parts of Sydney, but not where I am. No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a crazy story. It doesn't happen to many Americans, so we're not all cowboys out here or gangsters.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Thank you again for your time. Do appreciate it, and yeah, we'll speak soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nick. Good talking to you.
Have a good
All
day.
right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.